Okay, great. Okay, we have 5 commissioners on the call, so let's get started. I just want to welcome everybody to the June 2020 ERC Commission meeting. We have 5 projects to go over. So at this time, I'll just turn it over to our Commission Chair, Aaron. Commission Chair Conley, you can take over the meeting. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes from last meeting? Just raise your hand to indicate yes. Great. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from last month?
I make a motion to approve the meeting from last month's EORC meeting, Commissioner Hall.
I'll
Great.
second.
All in favor, say aye. Indicate by raising your hand if you're muted. Thank you. All right, those minutes pass. Okay, the first plan on the agenda is the 2601, the Henderson plan.
No,
Right.
it's the Smallman Street. Smallman Street is first, Commissioner.
Okay, Smallman Street, sorry. All right, Chuck, you want to review that?
Yes, the Smallman Street plan is the Smallman Street Public Improvement Plan number 2. It's a project of $1.9 million and some change dollars, $1,973,695.92. The prime contractor is A. Moranti. The participation is 13.17% MBE and 6.33 WBE. All the certifications and letters are updated, and this one looks pretty good to me. So back to you, Commissioner.
Okay, can you go down to the screen where it has the totals? Probably. Okay, no, the next one. Okay.
I can take you to the synopsis.
Upasa's running the screen because I'm not able to run it from where I'm at. Okay, there it is. Thank you, Upasana.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, it looks good to me, but does anybody have any comments? Or do we have anybody from DOMI on the line? Who's David? Let's see here. Chuck, do we have anybody from DOMI on the line?
There should be Eric. I'm sorry. Robert's on the line, and so is Eric.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure that somebody from the city was on this call.
Yeah, they're on there.
Any questions for them? Does anybody have any questions for the representative from DOMI?
Is the prime here too? Yes, no?
Is there anybody from
Patty should be on the call. Patty Burke, I think, is on here too. I'm not able to see who's on the call, guys. I'm using my phone because of the problems I'm having.
I see Patty's name.
Slide over like this and you'll be able to see who's on. Chuck, slide your screen over on your phone and you'll be able to see everybody on it.
I see Patty Burke on.
Patty Burke is on.
Okay, great.
I just wondered if, I guess Patty could speak to, if there were limitations for further splicing this out. And I'm kind of curious about whether these are subcontractors that they have used in the past, if there are new folks in here. Patty, are you able to speak to those questions?
This is Chris Schreiner from A. Moranti. A lot of them are subcontractors that we have used before.
I was just going to add, I'm familiar with Supreme Traffic Control as well as Jada Minifield Construction. So Supreme is one of our tenants at RCI.
Okay.
And Jada Minifield is one of our companies that came out of our business development program. Our
Oh,
biz-
that's great. James, did you recommend some of these companies to the city? Were you instrumental in getting them considered, or?
So we've been trying to market them as much as we can from RCI. I think
Yeah,
if
that's
they
great.
got in contact, I'm not sure if it was direct, but we've been marketing them from our end.
Perfect. All right, can I get a motion?
This is Sarah. I move to accept this.
Approve.
Tracy, second.
Okay, all in favor to approve this plan, indicate by saying aye or raise your hand if your video's on.
Sorry, Commissioner, Chair, there's a message from Patty Burke. She did say that she's on mute. I don't know if we still need to speak with her, but she needs to be unmuted.
I don't think that, oops, Upasna,
Maybe-
you haven't muted people, have you?
No, I
Maybe-
haven't. If
Peter.
Dave can unmute Patty Burke, please.
This is Joy from the City Channel. It looks like she does not have an audio or video device enabled if you look next to her name.
Okay. Do you know if this is the only plan that she'd have to speak upon?
No, the next plan, excuse me for cutting in. The next plan is the plan that we really need to talk to A. Moranti about. This one looks okay. It's the next one.
Oh, okay. Well, there is another representative from A. Moranti, so hopefully those two could text each other.
She just said-
She just said Chris Schreiner's on the call too.
Okay, right. Chris is here, so.
Okay,
So again, second,
okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
aye.
Okay, this plan passes.
Okay,
Oh, here we go. This is Henderson Street.
okay, this is the Henderson Street project. Let me give you a little background. This one is the one we tabled last month because we were waiting for more participation. They did up the participation a little bit with Adams Petroleum, and this is where we're at right now. Can you pull up the synopsis for that? Partner, please.
I'll just
Chuck,
get-
I think you are talking through your computer and your phone.
I have my computer down.
Okay.
Okay.
No, now you're
How's that?
echoing. You have two audios going at the same time. Pick one.
How's it now? Is that better?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Like I said, this is the one that we tabled last month because we were waiting for some more participation. They did come back with more participation with Adams Petroleum, adding another 2.9%. So the total now is 4.34 MBE and 3.84 WBE.
Okay, Chris, would you like to talk about, you're still awful short for construction, so we're really gonna need some explanation on why you were able to, find all this participation in the first plan, but this one's not so great.
In the first plan, it's a lot bigger of a project, and there are a lot more opportunities to sub out the work on the project. On the Henderson Street project, for example, like I talked about last time, is the railing would be an opportunity where we would typically sub out. That railing is being supplied by the city. So
Okay,
as far as like that item there, all we have is installation only. The rebar that goes in for the wall, it is being subbed out to tie bar. The only material requirement on the job that is not being supplied by minority would be the concrete for the wall. We did reach out at the time of bid and post bid. We have not received a quote from a minority supplier for the supplying of the concrete for the project. As far as the other work on the project, there's not really any other sub items on the project. It's very straightforward with drilling, excavation. There's no fence material that we could sub out or do other than the railing, there's typically all the other items on the project. There's no really opportunity for us to sub out. We've tried subbing out as much as we possibly can. There's just not, it's a small project that is highly specialized as far as the drilling on the project is the majority of the work on the project. So just isn't very much opportunity for us to sub out work on this job compared to the first.
Chris, I have a question for you. What is the percentage of this project that is made up by the cement or the concrete?
I'm sorry, I do not have an exact figure on that.
But is that what's causing it to not be able to reach a percentage for the rest of the project to be subbed out because of it being so heavy on that concrete side?
Well, I guess I would have to say yes, because, not just concrete, but the drilling for the retaining wall, that is the majority of that project. And that's work that's done by Moranti. If we subbed out that work, we wouldn't have even bid the project.
Yeah, there would be no point in bidding it.
Correct.
I understand that.
I do have one question in terms of the MBE participation. So it looks like Ty Bar is a WBE from some light research on her, and I'm not sure how she's certified MBE, if she is, but it looks like she's a WBE.
Are you saying she's not a minority? The owner's not a minority?
No, she is.
Ty Bar is listed as an MBE.
Okay.
All right, so commissioners, from what I can see from this project, like he said, if they were to, they couldn't sub out the drilling because the drill, that's basically what the prime is responsible for. So that couldn't be carved out. Does anybody else have any questions for them? I kind of understand why these numbers are the way they are, but I don't want to speak for it. I want you guys to feel comfortable. Anybody?
Now, my only question was just about the MBWBE status.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Sorry, Earl, I'll second.
Okay. All in favor indicate by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 Okay, great. That motion passes. We're going to move on to city procurement.
Yes, to the procurement too. Thank you, Chris, and tell Patty I said thank you.
All right, thank you.
There was a question in chat, crap.
Oh,
okay. We're good.
Okay.
It's fine. It was just
All
Patty
right.
saying she couldn't be unmuted.
Right.
all right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We're going to go to the first ITQ company. We have 3 of those. We have Dan on the line for procurement. That he can start to explain those, Commissioner, Chair.
Okay.
The first one is CityFi.
So CityFi is not going to be joining us. They had conflicting meetings. They are going to be pulling in.
Hi, Daniel. This is Ahmed from CityFi. So I actually am.
Oh, hi, Ahmed. How are you?
Oh,
Good.
perfect.
So this
Ahmed, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and sorry for any confusion.
Jennifer's here as well, and I believe Jeff Scallican was going to be joining on this topic also in a few minutes here.
Okay. So just to review CityFi, they do have an MBE and they have 3 WBEs listed, and they all have the certification. So
one of the ITQ contracts where we don't have scopes of work or dollar amounts that they can come back to the commissioners with percentages yet of actual spend. So we were just sort of trying to get some depth and understanding of whom they would be partnering with if and when they're awarded work.
I want to see that spreadsheet brought up, please.
Yeah.
Can you pull up the spreadsheet, Kwanzaa?
She's doing it.
Thank you.
Okay.
There you go. There's City 5 right there, number 1.
Okay, good. This is, let's use this, okay?
Okay.
Commissioners, do you agree this is a little clearer for me?
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay. Okay, so there isn't any work currently for contracts so that we could see what percentage, but this is where you are with your minority and your women-owned businesses that have qualified to be considered, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, we're all still kind of getting used to this ITQ situation. I think I understand this one. What do you guys, are you guys good?
So this was a professional services contract for what type of work? Just these engagement studies?
Public engagement.
And mobility and transportation studies.
So like holding community meetings and things like that to get input. Not really a lot of room to subcontract those things out unless there's maybe some marketing materials or something like that. So there's, and that's I think what Jeff was gonna try and explain. Since he's not here, I'll try to articulate, but that these two categories are very specific, and there's just not a lot of options.
So this is, go
ahead.
I'm sorry. So I have some familiarity with the Suasion group. They've done some work for another board that I was on. So are they just doing, is there going to be a website or anything associated with this, or is this just, again, like stakeholder surveys, engagement, that type of thing?
Well, we don't know yet. The scopes of work don't exist. This is potentially if that work were to come up in a public stakeholder project or portion of a project that was to be awarded to CityFi, and that's something that can be done. This is sort of where they pull from to get their participation on actual spend. But as of now, that spend isn't there.
And it's not there. Gotcha. And where is CityFi located? Are they a Pittsburgh company, the Prime?
No, we're not. We're in 5 different markets, but none of them are Pittsburgh. We're in Washington, D.C., New York, Kansas City, Denver, and Los Angeles.
Okay. And with regard to looking at some of the MBEs, I'm just surprised that you don't have more MBEs that do this type of work here within the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're open to adding folks to this list. For us, our process was we went to the state certification, and kind of exactly the way that I think the conversation has gone here. We thought about the potential things that could be subcontracted, right? So within these topics, marketing, websites, those types, and we looked through the state's approved contractors list for those specific topics, and then we reached out to a handful of them to try to get information and commitments. But if there are other folks that I think people within the city would recommend us reaching out to, I mean, we're more than happy to do that as well.
Okay, so I have one last question, I'm sorry. So this list that you do have, this is from those individuals, those companies that you reached out to, and they expressed some interest in something that may happen down the line.
Yeah, so 3 of them expressed interest in things that may happen down the line. Okay. We actually didn't get responses from a couple of them, from 2 of them at all, even though reaching out to them 3 or 4 times, both by phone and by email. And the other ones we did get a commitment for, and there was, I would guess the topics that we were looking at was grant administration and grant writing, community and government relations, and public relations, and then event planning.
So for clarification, this is Commissioner Hall. When you say you reached out to those in the state of Pennsylvania and within the city of Pittsburgh. That's a clarification question.
So we went by the state of Pennsylvania's certification. That was the list that we had, that we went from. went through the state certified list of MBEs, WMBEs, and that was the initial contact list that we had, I guess is lack of better terms, right? With all of the phone numbers and emails listed on the state certification.
Okay,
I have a question. So these 5 that are listed, you have commitment letters to them, from them, I mean, or to them and from them signed?
So on 3, we have email exchanges. I'm not sure what type of format a commitment letter would be. Given that we don't actually have specific scopes of work.
Yeah.
Essentially the emails say, should we have work within this, within your scope? So let's take grant administration as an example, right? It's a very highly specific scope of work. There could be a chance that City of Pittsburgh wants to write a community grant with federal government, and we could sub that work out. But should that work never come along, there's no scope for us to sub out there.
Okay, this isn't necessarily your fault. Jennifer, if they're listing these companies, so am I understanding this correctly? These are the companies that they have deemed out of the lists that they reviewed that are appropriate for the jobs, or they could possibly be used. But I'm confused. I don't know the other commissioners if you're confused about this too. Do they know? Have these companies committed to say, okay, if in fact this work comes up and it's in our purview, we are going to work with CityFi to complete these jobs?
Yes, that's correct.
You could just list these companies that are minority or women-owned businesses and come and present them to us, and they've never even committed.
Well, that's why they're not listed.
We do have email documentation that he has provided as part of his plan, showing the exchanges and showing that the company said yes, that they would work with them if this work came up. So we have that documentation from him. I have the email exchanges myself.
Chuck, do you have them?
Yeah, he should.
I have. You have to ask Upasna that. Upasna, do we have that?
Yes, we have documentation about exchange of emails.
Okay, all right.
Great.
I mean, you guys have to understand why that would be so unclear for me.
Oh, you sure, absolutely. And another thing I'd like to add, one of the other commissioners had mentioned something about did they contact local companies and things like. You have to remember that there's other. I know this is new, but there are multiple agencies in this category, and the local ones are already on our list.
Yeah, I do understand that.
I just wanted to point that out because somebody had asked that question. I don't recall who, but
it was Commissioner McCants Lewis that asked the question.
Yeah, and I appreciate the clarification, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to add
Can I just echo the concern that, especially it feels like when it comes to stakeholder engagement, that we need to make sure there's plenty of minority businesses that are supporting that work.
The optics on that in particular are not good. So
well,
I agree.
I think it's also the way we're looking at it too.
Commissioner Hall.
I don't think it's necessarily their fault. I'm sorry, Chuck and Upsana, but it's kind of the way it's being presented to us as well. So, in the future.
Whoa. Excuse me. What do you mean the way it was presented to you? Now you got me confused a little bit.
Well, I would like to have known that those email exchanges were in your hands, that you knew that would have eliminated that question.
Okay, well, for Upasna, in my perspective, this is the end of 40 of these ITQ companies, and that question has never been submitted to us in the approval of the other ones. So this is a new question.
But Chuck, to be fair, I think it didn't occur to us because
I understand.
The Prime just said that we don't have commitment, and we just assumed that these lists came from people they had commitments from.
No, well, keep in mind, and this is just me talking, we don't get letters of confirmation or approval letters, so to speak, until there's some percentages with them and a dollar amount with them. So we don't get that until they enter into some type of agreement. So the emails are fine, but they're not commitments. They're not committed.
But it's
until they
going
enter
to show
into an
the good
agreement.
faith effort. If those emails
Right.
aren't being considered,
that's
then
right.
how do the commissioners know that these 5 companies or 4 companies, whatever, aren't just being listed?
Exactly. We
Right.
need to
So
know
that
that
Well,
there has
well,
been a
outreach done.
communication exchange confirming that they're committed. Even
I
mean, they could go out of business by the time this work comes up.
Yes.
I mean, that's
Com-
I'm not
right.
I'm not saying we need
Commissioner-
a contract.
Right, but Commissioner Bruford, I understand what you're saying, 100%. I understand it. However, there is all UPAWS and I can do when they list these ITQ companies the way they're listed. From now on, I will give you the email trails. That's fine. But the only thing we can do is go out and make sure that they have their certifications and their certifications are updated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we do. Now, we can give you email chains if you would like. We could do that. That's no problem. But all I'm saying is, as we evolve with these ITQs, that is a new question. That question has never been put to us for the other 40 companies. So I understand it, and we'll get it to you. But
Here's what I would like to
has
see.
never been.
Here's what I would like to
Right.
see for sake of time. If it's submitted and you're reviewing it and there's not an email exchange, there's nothing proving that they've actually had conversations, contact, communication with this company. I want you to mark that company in red on this sheet.
Okay, we can do that.
That way we're not getting in the weeds. There's
Right,
not,
we can do that.
Then we can pose it to the city. Okay, why is this in red? Why is this company listed if they haven't really, there's no proof that they've been contacted and there's been an exchange. Does that sound reasonable to
do
the
that.
rest of the commissioners?
I think so.
Yeah.
That sounds very
Yeah,
reasonable.
we can do that.
Okay.
We
All
can
right.
do that. We can do that.
Okay.
There's no problem.
All right. So can I get a motion?
So moved. Earl Buford.
Can I get a second?
Second, Tracy McCants Lewis.
All right. All in favor of approving this plan, say aye.
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 Okay. Did you get all those, Chuck?
I did. UPAWS is taking it. She has it.
Okay.
Ahmed,
Okay.
thank you very much for calling in. This is Dan. I appreciate it.
Sure.
And thank you, everybody.
Wait a minute. Dan, don't leave, please. We got 2 more ITQs to go over.
We're not going anywhere.
Okay.
I also have a topic for the end after we go through these to
Okay.
talk about
Right.
some of the actual work we're starting to bid and assign. So give me 5
Okay.
minutes,
Great.
please.
Sounds good. Sounds great. But commissioners, I will make sure that when we do these, we'll put those who are not on any email list in red for you guys to view, okay?
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay,
Okay.
let's move on to the next one.
Number 2 is the engineer company, I think it's Kropinski,
That's right.
and they're an engineering firm, and they have an MBE and a WBE listed.
Okay. So what do those, what would be the work performed by those 2 companies?
They're listed as engineering.
So engineering, it was a fairly broad category in the overall scope of design, which is what this ITQ was. So
Okay.
let me, hold on, I can go through and try to actually find this fairly quickly.
But they would be engineering, construction designs, drawings. A lot of times.
Sedimentation control is in that category as well.
What's in?
I think
All right.
sedimentation,
No, that was under civil.
Okay.
I don't know. Is this civil engineering or structural engineering, Chuck? I don't. Let me go look at mine because we had multiple kinds of engineering.
Yeah.
But
Dan's on the line. Dan, which one is it?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I have to. I can look on my list, but bridge design, wetlands monitoring, all kinds of different types of engineering, electrical, the gamut.
So these smaller firms, engineering firms, they would just kind of carve out a couple of tasks to break it up. I don't know enough about engineering to really be asking the right questions about this, to be honest.
Yeah, and I don't.
Jeff, are you on here?
I don't see Jeff.
I thought he was.
Jeff got off.
But like, yeah, they would get a larger engineering firm would bring in a specialty firm for like maybe a bridge or a railroad or something like that, where they didn't have maybe a depth of knowledge, right?
Okay.
They would bring in one of these more, probably these are engineering, I would think would be like a more boutique, very specific thing that they would bring into more general engineering to get more specific on, depending on, the scope of work.
Okay, commissioners, how are you? Are you guys okay? How are you feeling? Do you have questions? No. I honestly, I know lots about construction and some of the other things that come in front of us in professional services, but engineering's a little, I don't know enough about.
The other category they are in, they're in there for engineering, and they're also in for the LEED certifications. That's the green stuff, I guess. And
yeah,
that they're on that too.
Okay.
They have two categories.
Okay, can I get a motion?
I'll move it forward. Earl Buford.
Commissioner Hall, second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Great. Okay, let's move on to the architect.
All right, the architect one has a number of WBEs listed.
Mm-hmm. But no MBEs?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
But
Here we go.
yeah, there's 5 checks at the bottom.
Okay, here we go. All right.
Yes.
So again, is this a lot like the engineering? If it was a large project, they would just carve out, specifics.
Right. So, it's urban design. So, are we designing, a building, a streetscape, a park? Depending on what that is, they would bring in more specialties. Like Up Studio on here is a landscape architect, right? So, depending on the project, as a park, they would maybe do some of the landscape design to Up Studio while they are doing the design for the park building, right?
There's one thing I just want clarification on. So this is just specifically ZGF Architects.
As the prime.
As the prime. You have other ITQ architectural firms, and those architectural firms have been in front of us, and they may have partnered up and JV'd with other MBE firms in the city, and that's why those firms didn't respond to ZGF.
Yeah, that's correct.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, those other firms also could have been free to been put on ZGF or whichever other primes may have approached them. But yeah, that's correct.
And actually, Up Studio and Mayan Reichel are actually primes themselves on the ITQ also, and they've been already approved. Their packages have been previously approved.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried to encourage the smaller firms and these WBEs and MBEs to be the primes as much as we could.
I know that you guys did. I'm aware of that.
Yeah, so this is one of those examples where, you know, ZGF is maybe a bigger firm. These Up Studio and Mind Wriggle, they're in our smaller bucket.
Yep.
Right? But then the bigger firms, then the medium projects, they can include them as subs so they can get part of those big projects.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Do you guys have any questions for them regarding this? No? You waving your heads? No? Okay. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve. This is Jenny.
Can I get a second?
Second, Tracy.
Sarah? Okay. Sarah, go to first. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Do you guys have,
Yep.
Posna, you have all those? Okay. All right, there was one thing now that's all of them, correct?
No, can we let's give, before we go into our personal meeting,
Yeah, I know.
Commission Chair, can we give Jen a little bit of time? She wanted 5 minutes to talk about these ITQs.
Okay, and also Jen, I don't know if I'm skipping ahead if you are going to review this, but we wanted to know if we could have some type of report of what's already moving forward and what companies have already been contracted. We'd like some updates on those things.
That's what I wanted to talk about. So
awesome. Okay.
First of all, these are the last 3 from the first ITQ that we did. We are in the process of creating 2 more. One will be for IT type services, and another that Dan just put out on the street for construction management and construction inspection. So, Dan, when does that one close? CMC?
I can go look. Hang on.
A couple weeks or so, maybe longer.
Yeah, it should be late June, early July, I believe, but I can get the exact date.
Probably in August, we'll have a new round of submissions for you. The ITQ one is not even on the street yet, or IT services one is not even on the street yet. But just so those are on your radar, we'll have 2 different types and different categories of work coming along later this year. But as far as the projects, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. We're going to be, as the scopes of work are out, we have a couple out to bid now, nothing really started yet. But I wanted to kind of talk about the best process of communication and make sure that my idea is okay with you guys on how to get Chuck that information, especially since we're not in the office now. So what we are doing is when we are asking them to respond, we are asking them for their plan specific to then now that there's an actual project, right? So take your old plan and tell us how you're going to use these in, $40,000 scope of work. So we have some design projects out for some fire stations, different things like that. We have a couple things in the small buckets, a couple things in the medium buckets that are going to be wrapping up and getting those. So when we are process by how we execute right now, we're doing them electronically in DocuSign. So my thought would be to add Chuck at the end of that process so that when the documents are complete, the scope of work is done, the funding is done, the plan is there, when everything gets signed off on, have Chuck just automatically get an emailed copy of that, and then he will have their whole package. He'll have all the dollar amounts, everything. He can just then add it to that list that he's going to be creating and give it to you. I believe in your monthly meetings, he was going to give you, the plan was that he would give you this, or Posna, whoever, of what had been assigned, and then break down what the actual work was and percentages, now that there's a dollar value, right, to give you that. So, Chuck, would that work for you? Or would you rather have a Posna get that?
No, Jen, that'll be perfect. If you send that to me when it's done, I will make sure that it's reviewed at the next commission meeting.
Yeah, and you'll have all their, their information to track and know what they're supposed to be doing for that particular project, so that you can record, in B2G now and all of that.
Yes, that'll be great.
Okay,
Yep.
so yeah, that's what we were thinking. We would just add you in at the end of the process, that once it's done, you get a copy, and then you'll have all the details that you need as to what the project is, who the subs are, how much it was, all of that.
Yes, that would be great. That would be great information for me to submit to the commission.
Yeah, and probably, in the next couple weeks, we'll start to have a couple for you, Chuck.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, is that an okay process for everybody?
This is Commissioner Hall. That sounds good. I just want to make sure that that document will show what the MBEs and WBEs were paid for their services.
Well, it'll show what they're going to be paid, and then Chuck will track that, and then he follows up when the checks are cut to make sure that they actually got paid, and he does their compliance part.
Yes, that's correct.
Normal outline, and everything Chuck needs to do to make sure all the information he needs to make sure they're doing what they said they were going to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Well, I have to say, this is miles ahead of what we used to be able to obtain, as far as, if all the primes were following up with the subs and making sure that they were being contracted and being used and being paid. I mean, we had a really hard time. I've been on this commission since 2012. We've had a really hard time of that being consistent and getting that information. So if this could really work the way you guys are laying this out, I'm excited.
Yeah, and I think it's nice, a lot of times in the past, especially when things were done through maybe it wasn't an RFP that came to you, but it was a letter of authorization on an existing contract where there was participation, and everybody had to remember to tell Chuck or whoever, Chuck.
Yeah, whoever was there at the time.
And now, one of the good things that has come out of all of this is we've got an electronic thing so that we can put him right in there, and there's no way that we can forget, because it'll just electronically send it right to him, so he has what he needs. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jennifer. Do any of the other commissioners have questions for Jennifer or Dan? No? All right. Well, I guess we'll talk to you next month.
We'll head out. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Dan.
Bye, Chuck. Nice to talk to you.
You too. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Okay.
Okay, Commission Chair, you want to take over the rest of the meeting?
I do. I just want to I want to touch on two things.
Okay.
This format, I think, works well in the climate. Even if the city is back next month, I feel like next month meetings should still be virtual. I wanted feedback on that from you guys.
I'm in agreement. I think it's clear, it's controlled, and we either have something to say or not, and it moves.
Okay.
Yes, I like the movement. I agree with Commissioner Hall. I like the movement of the meeting.
Yeah, I think eventually we'll probably be back in the room together, but there's no need to take risks, in my opinion.
Thank you for your leadership on this. Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you.
No hurry
Thank
to
you.
rush back.
I
Nice
just
seeing you
wanted
virtually.
to add one thing, that for our next meeting, then we'll, like you had mentioned, Erin, that we will mark in red if there is a lack of correspondence or commitment for our ITQ companies. And also, we'll also add another column mentioning what area of work each of the subs are involved in.
Yes. Yeah, whatever you feel is going to be bring more clarification and eliminate questions. Our goal is to have this as so concise that we're not getting caught in the weeds on this call and in this meeting.
Yes. Yes.
And I feel that if there's something in red, then it's going to be discussed. There's going to be questions asked. We'll ask questions and we'll get answers from the people that need to provide them. But we as commissioners have really taken the stance where we're giving you and Chuck that authority to do your jobs and do, you know, block and tackle before we even get here to this meeting. And that's important because we're volunteers. We're not, this isn't, you know, our job. It's your job, and it's keeping you employed, and, you know, you do a great job at it, and we're very happy with the work that's been done. Okay, I got 2 questions in the chat. Oh, okay, this is from, thank you, James.
Aaron, could I add, I don't know, I don't want to make it more difficult than what this spreadsheet already requires from you, but if it's easy enough to do, to indicate whether any of the subs have also been approved as primes is kind of valuable information when we're looking at these two. And I don't know if you just want to like know that or have the list there somewhere so that we could look really quickly. I don't think we need it on the spreadsheet, but that is information that I appreciate having.
Is that easy, Chuck? Is that easily obtained?
Yeah, we can get that to you. We can get. You want to know what small companies are primes or what companies are both primes and subs?
So when we're looking at these new contracts for approval, if we can know of the subs that are being identified, which ones have already been approved as primes independently?
In that smaller bucket, that under $1 million category.
So we do that.
Yes.
It's a different shade, maybe blue or light green or something like that.
Yes.
We can, does that make sense? That would be
so
nice.
we can do that. We already do that actually, where you see sub, the column where it says sub previous participants. If they've been a prime earlier, you will see mention that it'll be mentioned there that it's prime.
Oh, so I misunderstood what that column was for then. So that's good to know. Okay.
Yes, we can do that though. We'll make sure that's on there too.
Yeah. Sari, yes. The answer to that is yes.
Yes, it is made available to the public. Yes.
Okay, not this part of the meeting though, right?
Well, I'm going to ask the people behind the scenes I want you to, what we want to do, Commission Chair, is to end this meeting, but then I want everybody to stay on the line for us to talk about some things we need to talk about privately.
Well, let's do that.
So when we move into executive session, the recording will be stopped or not provided. Is that correct?
I think that's what the
Right. We're going to ask the people, the IP, to stop.
Okay. But
We need to be careful about what is covered under executive session, though, because I think sometimes these conversations go into areas that are covered by open meetings.
Under the Sunshine Act, yeah.
Well, both of the topics that we're getting ready to discuss, I wouldn't discuss in an open meeting. So if you guys want to get off this medium forum and do it on another medium forum, it's fine with me. But I would discuss, this is something that the commission.
I think you could just stop the recording on live. You could stop it from live streaming on YouTube. You could just stop the recording, and we can still.
Right. We're going to ask the people. We're going to ask the IP people who are now listening to us behind the scenes to stop the recording.
Okay.
As soon as you.
Can you not see what's in the chat? Are you not seeing this?
I'm seeing what's in the chat.
Okay, I'm going to just say stop the recording.
Yeah, stop the recording.
We are going into our meeting. All right.
Right.
If we could get some clarification on what is okay to talk offline. I mean, I value transparency here, and so.
Well, this is just about our commission. This is just about the structure of what we're about to talk about. Let's talk about it. You can decide at that point if you feel like it should have been. I don't believe that it needs to be aired. It's just about our commission.
Right.